everybody. My name is Alex from LeaderLivingLife, and today I'm going to give you a little bit of background information into how we edit the podcast and the YouTube videos. So the first thing that we're going to want to do when we open up Adobe Audition is clean up our workspace. So here you can see I'm getting rid of all empty tracks just to get them out of the way, give me a clearer view of what I'm working on. Now what I'm doing is importing the raw audio file from the podcast, as well as the intro and outro files. So I want to make sure I get those positioned right off the bat, just because it saves me a step at the end. Now what I'm doing here is expanding my timeline so that I can see more of the workspace at once as I search through and try to find where the podcast actually starts. Because what we tend to do is start our recording, begin talking, and then sort of flow into our intro after everybody is familiar with what's going on. So I'll save you from needing to sit through all the jumping around. Now that I have found the beginning of the podcast itself, I use the razor tool to slice the audio file right where I want it and remove everything before that. I prefer the razor tool just because it's quick and easy. Click right where you want it, and that's where you can stop it. It's also possible to just drag the edges of the waveform, but I found that the razor tool is a much quicker way to do that. Now what I'm doing is checking the end of the audio file because occasionally we'll forget to stop the recording after we do our outro, and we have a few seconds of just chatting at the end that really would serve no purpose to keep in the podcast itself. Now in this particular episode, there was not any chatting at the end, so that saves me a little bit more editing. What I'm going to do now is drag in my outro file and match that up with the podcast. That's just our standard promotional stuff, so talking about the website where you can find other episodes. So it's just easier to have that pre-recorded and tack it onto the end of each episode for simplicity's sake. Now, after a little bit more editing and just fine-tuning the audio itself, all that's left is to export the file as an MP3, and we are all set. After we have edited and exported the audio file for the podcast, we move on to editing the actual video file. So this is what we use when we create the YouTube videos. We're going to start with an empty project in Adobe Premiere Pro and just import the video file to begin with, as well as our intro. What I'm going to do now is crop the video to get rid of the timestamp that's left by the tool that we use to record the video, as well as fix the framing a little bit so it's a little bit more appealing to the eye. After I have finished cropping and adjusting the framing of the video, I'm going to do something very similar to what I did for the audio file. I'm going to scroll through and find the point in the video where the podcast itself actually begins. After I find the beginning of the podcast, what I'm going to do is the exact same thing I did on the audio file. So I just take the razor tool, clip it right where it begins, and then drag that over to match up with the intro video. And while I had already checked the end of the audio file for extra chatter, I always like to check the video as well, just to be sure. After I've made sure that the video is trimmed down to just the content that I want, I go back to the beginning to create the transitions between the audio and video of the intro and the audio and video of the actual podcast. Once I'm satisfied with how the transitions look and sound, all that's left is to export the video and publish it. I hope you guys liked this video, giving you a little look behind the scenes as to how we create the content that you enjoy. And if you'd like to see more of these videos, please make sure to let us know in the comments.